Welcome to The Amy Gregory Show, the show where real estate gets a reality check and success doesn't require burnout. I'm Amy, your straight shooting, pep talk in your pocket host who took the real estate world by storm with zero cold calls, no door knocking, and a firm no thanks to working 50-hour weeks. 8 years ago, I jumped into real estate with both feet, 3 kids, and a baby on the way. In my rookie year, I broke every rule in the book, earning 6 figures working just 10 hours a week. The industry was shocked. I wasn't. Now, I lead a powerhouse team of over 500 female solo agents nationwide, host retreats, create online courses, and sit proudly in the top 10 of my brokerage with over 85,000 agents. My mission? To help women like you scale your business, trust your intuition, and redefine what success looks like on your terms. So if you're ready to play big, ditch the hustle culture, and build a business that fits your life, not the other way around, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the Amy Gregory Show. We are going to jump right into some Q&A from all of you guys, burning questions deep in your soul that you have been wanting to ask me. So let's start. We have kind of grouped them into a couple of different sections. First, we have business and lead gen, mindset and strategy, systems and automation, real talk, where we get into like the nitty gritty personal things, and then just some bonus kind of crowd favorites that you guys have wanted to know. Okay, so let's jump into it. So first question is, what's your listing strategy? How do you prep, price, and pitch to win every single time? And if you're new here, I have like the most viral listing presentation on the internet right now, and you can click the link below to grab your template. And inside of that listing presentation, I actually give my exact strategy for going to market, because you need to have a strategy for how you're taking their house to market, right? And social media does play a role in it. This is why social media becomes such a huge asset inside your business, is because I own that, the numbers on social media, right? So I can post on that platform, which is in addition to like a Zillow or a Realtor.com. Yes, all of our listings are kind of syndicating to all of those bigger websites. But when you have a social following, you get to use that as well to say, well, if you look at my YouTube or my Instagram, my videos are getting X amount of views, and it is a game of eyeballs. So when we talk about going into a listing presentation, I like to have my comps look like data. My comps look like data because it is data. So I want it to look that way. And then my listing presentation is more of like the marketing piece, and it's the presentation on it is really beautiful. It has high-end photos, and it's a magazine bound, and it's all like, can you tell it's like, it's yummy. Like the paper is smooth and thick, and it feels good in your hands. It has a good weight to it. But we talk about we want to take an immersive approach to listing houses. So we want mailers, we want reels, we want YouTube videos, we want it on the MLS, we want it syndicating to all those websites. And then we also want an open house strategy that supports all of that, because you want to know how many showings before you get an offer. And so you need to dig into some of your data and say, okay, well, typically if we get X amount of showings, we should get X amount of offers. And so then the question becomes, how do you get X amount of showings? And we want to have it be really immersive. So one of the things we talk a lot about is the 7-11-4 rule of marketing, which is also inside my listing presentation template. And we go through like, how do we hit those metrics in taking your house to market? So that is kind of my listing strategy. How do I prep and price? Pricing is really difficult in 2025, if we're being really honest. And that's because 2024 saw the fewest amount of closed transactions that we've seen in 35 years. And so there's not as much data as we are used to. And so pricing is going to be a little bit, you're going to have to dig into the data a little bit more to understand how to price the house. And one of the things I do tell my sellers is that, you know, I don't decide the price of your home. I'm not over here as the agent deciding what your home is worth. What decides what your home is worth is the market, is what is someone willing to pay to buy your house, right? At what price does that person become a buyer for your home? And that's one of the questions you want to be asking agents when you're following up from showings. Hey, at what price does your client become a buyer? And if they will tell you that, that's great feedback for your seller, because then you say, okay, great. At this price point, this buyer becomes a buyer. And you might get a range of numbers from agents. And that's a great question to ask inside of open houses, right? Inside an open house, they might say, oh, this isn't the one for me. Oh, I totally understand this house isn't the one for you. But at what price point would this house be the one for you? And that's a great piece of feedback to give your sellers. So that's one of the questions I would include inside your open house strategy. Okay. What does your weekly work schedule actually look like? Hours, tasks, and non-negotiables. My weekly schedule now is vastly different than what it was when I first started. When I first started, my weekly schedule involved having a home tour on my Instagram account every single Tuesday. And this was so long ago that I literally remember on Instagram stories where you actually had to post in real time and you had to film it in Instagram, and they were like 15 seconds long. That's how long I've been doing this. So on Tuesdays, I would have to be at a model home or an open house or a listing I had permission to feature on my social media, and I would be filming a home tour. And then I would, and that was the other thing, is you could not build the funnels behind Instagram like you can today. So it really was like, DM me. That was the only way for them to follow up, or they had to click the link in your bio to go to your website. And the only way people saw my content back then was if they were following me. And now with Reels, like, people that aren't following you can see your content, right? And so we're seeing this really interesting shift actually in social media, where it's not necessarily social media anymore. It's the algorithm is more interest based. So it's not about like, oh, let me connect this network of friends that they might know each other socially in real life or have like some in real life connections. Instead, the algorithm is connecting groups of people that are interested in the same thing. So if you're all interested in real estate, Amy Gregory is for you. If you're all interested in sports, what's Sports Center, ESPN, right? If you're all interested in recipes, okay, come over here. That's Food Network, Food Nanny, all those things are kind of over there. So social media is really seeing a shift from connecting people on a social level and instead grouping them by what they are interested in, which is a huge asset if you're trying to build your brand on social media. It allows you to get traction so much faster than in the olden days when someone had to be following you in order to see your content. So if I was just starting out and a brand new agent, I would say you should spend if you have, weekly schedule. Someone said, if I only have 2 hours a day for real estate, what should I be focusing on? So I would spend one of those. Let's say you have 2 hours a day. One day I would spend just on getting your content and getting that prepped, and so that you have something to post every single day. A second day I would spend on like building out the funnel system and the email follow-up for all of that and your lead magnets. So how to hire a realtor. You could have a lead magnet all about staging your house or prepping your house for market, right? There's all these different things you could have. But then your content is going to push to those lead magnets. And then I always had Fridays available when I had my youngest is 7 now. So when he was a baby, I would always have a nanny at my house on Fridays so that if clients needed to walk properties, I was available to walk properties. That was a day that oftentimes they wanted to walk properties. So plan on one day to be set aside for showings. And then the other 4 days is you're trying to book people to walk houses with on that day, right? So how are you going to do that? I would have one day be for open houses if you're just getting started. And then you kind of batch your time that way. The thing about time batching your time is our brains right now, with like social media and TikTok and Instagram, we have not a very long attention span anymore. And so when you can like turn off your phone for an hour and just get deep into the work, and I just said an hour is like getting deep into the work. There's been days when I've been at my computer for 4 hours straight, just like deep into something. And if you can train your brain to do that and to get into that habit, you'll reap a lot of benefits. And so if you only have 2 hours a day, I would spend those 2 hours working on the same thing. So hopefully that is helpful. Okay. What is something you wish you stopped doing sooner in your business? Oh gosh, that's a great question. Something I wish I'd stopped doing sooner. I think one of the things that I wish I would have done sooner was hire someone and stop doing some of these tasks that someone else could do. And the best way to do this is to understand what your hourly rate is. So, and I'm going to get out my phone and get out the calculator for you and do it for you right now. So I'm going to go back to like my first year in real estate, which was, I made $100,000. It was $106,000 working 10 hours a week, which 10 hours a week, let's see, 10 hours times 52 weeks in a year means I worked 520 hours. So if I take $106,000 and I divide it by 520, that means my hourly rate was $203. So this becomes like, if I can hire someone for less than $200 to do the task, I should hire them to do that. It took me a really long time to be willing to do that. And I wish I would have done it sooner. And I wish I would have learned how to delegate better. So when it comes to hiring, my first employee actually found me and asked if she could come and work with me. And I was like, well, sure. And it created a new problem for me to solve inside my business. And so it's one of these things of like, don't be afraid to create new problems inside your business. That's where the growth happens, is when you have a new problem to solve. So, and she had a different skill set than me. She was very detail oriented. She was very task driven. I'm much more of a visionary, big picture, come up, take this 10,000 foot view. Okay, I'm standing over here. I'm in California. I want to get to New York, and we're going to do it by plane. And then I could almost tell my employee that, and she would go book the flights, right? That's really how hiring should work, where I am aware of like where we are and I know where we want to go. And I know the vehicle of how I want to get there. And I'm going to even know the dates and the times that I want to be there. But she's going to go book the flights, and she's going to pack my luggage, and she's going to drive me to the airport. And so that's what my first, shout out to Elle, that's what my first employee really helped me do. And she kind of trained me, and I kind of trained her. And it was really cool how that happened. And if you're not sure how to have that happen, I wasn't sure how to have that happen either. And listen, business is like a spiritual pursuit for me. In fact, building a business has been my conduit to God. It is where I have come to know God in the most intimate and personal of ways. And I knew I needed to hire something, and it felt so scary and intimidating to me. And I felt like I don't even know what I'm doing. It just terrified me. And I remember in my prayers just being like, I don't know who to hire. I don't know how to hire someone. Just send me the person. And that was my prayer. And literally Elle showed up, and it was wild. And that's happened multiple times to me. And so I wish I had a spreadsheet and a checklist for you, but that's actually how it happened for me. And I think it can happen that way for anyone. And so I just waited for the person to show up, and Elle showed up not that long after. So anyways, what I would do is I told Elle, I would say, okay, I need to have standard operating procedures. So we would get on Zooms, and I would say, I am going to walk through how I do this. And she would take notes, and she would create those standard operating procedures for me, so that then when I needed to hire someone else, we had a baseline. And so she was really helpful in that. And that's how all of my employees are now as well, is I hire for certain skill sets and personality types that are different than mine. Do not hire yourself. Like, you already exist, and you're already annoying. Like, you're already annoying inside your business. You're the biggest problem in your business. So you have to hire to your weaknesses. And so that's how I would hire. So I wish I would have done that sooner and stopped doing some of the tasks that I could hire out. And in order to do that, you need to know your hourly rate. So figure out your hourly rate. And if you can hire someone to do it for less, then do that. And then you're gonna say, well, what am I gonna do with that extra time? Trust me, if you're an entrepreneur and you're a real estate agent, you will figure out how to make more money, build another business, or go on a vacation, or take a rest. You'll find the thing to fill that time. Okay, what mindset shift helped you go from just getting by to consistent 6 figures and then 7? You have to be unreasonable. Being unreasonable is the greatest strength inside my business. You have to be unreasonable and set unreasonable goals. The worst thing, it's like there's that really cheesy thing is like, shoot for the moon, even if you just get the stars. I butchered that. That's not even what it is. But you know what I'm saying? But that's kind of true. So like aim higher than you think is reasonable and put yourself in a position to like actually believe that. You actually have to believe it, and you have to spend time thinking about that. So I remember when I moved my license to EXP in 2019, and I was like, okay, well now I need to go and like bring other agents with me because I wanted to build out that residual rev share line in my business. I thought, oh, that's so cool. Instead of building a local team, I'm going to build it this way, and we're going to collaborate, and we're going to brain share, and we're going to like whatever, which is exactly what Powerhouse is. And, but I had to get clear on like, okay, well, who is it that I want inside of Powerhouse? What type of agent do I want to work with? And I would open up my Instagram account, and I literally had a saved folder in Instagram. You know how you can like save posts? I had a saved folder of agents that I was like, oh, I want an agent like that. Like she has her stuff together. She's doing cool things. I want an agent like that. And I would save her to a folder of like Powerhouse agents. And then I would pay attention to what she was doing in her business. And I would say, what does she need from me? And then I built the thing that she needed from me. And that is how Powerhouse was built. So I got really, really clear on what I wanted and why I wanted it. And then I actually believed it was reasonable. Like, why not? Like, I don't know if you've ever been to a real estate conference, but they put these people up on stage and you're like, there's no way that person is smarter than me or works harder than me. Like, that's not true. And so the other thing is you though have to, this is the other thing, it's like we're talking a little bit like about manifesting, and that's, I say manifesting is like being really clear, having clarity in your prayers, like understanding what it is you want, why you want it, and being measured in that and being willing to think that is reasonable. But then you must be consistent in your pursuit of it. And consistency beats talent all day, every single day. The most successful people you will ever meet are the most consistent people. Their lives are actually pretty boring. My life is actually pretty boring. We had this conversation inside our Powerhouse meeting today. The agents that are wanting to build out agent attraction, and they want to recruit agents, and they want to grow their revenue share group at EXP. And they said, well, I did this thing and I'm not really sure. And I said to them, I said, it's 2025. And I said, literally, I need you guys to understand that I have been holding a weekly coaching call for agents since 2019. 2018? Since 2018. Every single week since 2018. Whether there was one agent or 500 agents, I have held a weekly coaching call. I have done it from a cruise ship. I have done it in an airport. I have done it literally sitting on the floor in a hotel in my bathing suit with a baseball cap on. I have done it with a baby in my arms. I have done it sick. I have done it grieving. I have done it in every way, shape, and form. And so consistency is the number one thing. Well, clarity and consistency is the biggest thing that makes that shift. And also being in the right vehicle, right? So you have to figure out the vehicle that you're taking to get where you want to go. So if I'm going from California to New York, I mean, yeah, I can walk, but it's going to take a heck of a long time to walk. Why wouldn't you just get on an airplane? And I would tell you that like social media is like getting on an airplane. Why wouldn't you just get on an airplane? What tools or automations are you using right now that are saving you the most time? Up first is Instagram. It's just like the conduit to people. The conduit to your ideal client. I want you to think about this. I have 108,000 followers right now on Instagram. That's bigger than football stadiums. That's like bigger than a Taylor Swift concert. That's how many people have hit follow for me on Instagram. That's wild. It's wild. And even in 2018, when there were 15,000 people following me, that's literally like an NBA games worth of people. I think the Phoenix Suns arena seats 17,000 people. That's a lot of people, you guys, a lot of people. So Instagram, but then ManyChat and Stand Store are the other two things that connect everything on the back end of my business. So ManyChat is where I build chatbots. If you want a chatbot built for you, click below and the links and I can help you with that. But those are like the autoresponders and they're responding to DMs right away, right? And so that really enhances your client experience. It saves me a lot of time. It enhances the client experience. And it also communicates to your client that you're not a loser. You know what I mean? Like, have you ever been into like a doctor's office where they like, you can check in and do all the things and it's just like so seamless and you're like, wow, that was awesome. Thank you so much for making that so easy for me. Doing that for your clients communicates that you're good at what you do. And they usually want to hire someone that's good at what they do. So those are the biggest things right now. And then having a transaction coordinator that helps with all of my paperwork. How do you handle follow-up without feeling like you're constantly chasing people? I run an attraction method instead of a chasing method. So I don't feel like I chase people all that much. Most times, almost always people schedule a call with me. So if someone's scheduling a call with you, like they're saying, hey, Amy, I need your help. Okay, cool. Let me help you. Right. That my whole business is built opposite because I didn't want to chase people. Let's see. Have you ever wanted to quit real estate? Yeah, absolutely. There were a few times I can think of that come to mind. One was in 2020. I went to an event. It was like an invite only event. And I want to say there were like 50 to 70 people in the room. And I was one of probably 5 women in the room. And I was the only one that didn't have like a husband sitting next to her. And I remember feeling really, really lonely. And I remember like not seeing my business on the stage and thinking like, am I just an idiot? Like, what is wrong with me? And I didn't fit in. And I literally remembered like feeling like a 15-year-old girl on the first day of high school. And we were standing in a circle and there was probably 8 of us. I was the only female in the circle, and social media came up and they were like, oh, well, if you want to know social media, like ask this guy right here. And they pointed to the guy next to me. And I remember being like, what? That guy's not even like producing anything on social media. Yes, he's on there, but it's not driving business. And I remember just being like, oh, they don't even see me. And everyone had dinner plans with each other after the event. And I literally left the event. I went and got in my car and I cried, like sobbed, snot, like deep, like deep sobs, just by myself. And I actually had the presence of mind I called my husband, and then I actually had the presence of mind to film it. Because I thought one day I'm going to look back at this and be really glad I didn't quit. And that video is still on my phone. And I left and I drove through Chick-fil-A and I came home and I tucked my kids into bed and got up the next day and kept going. But I remember feeling so defeated in that moment. There's also been some transactions that have been really hard. I don't say I want to quit, but there's been times where early on I would get an email or a text message, and it always came from a guy that I kind of knew, like in real life, personally. And this probably happened 2 or 3 different times, different people. And one guy did not, like he had submitted an offer on a listing that I held. And I went with a different offer. I didn't go with it. My client went with a different offer. And he sent me an email that was, it was a 5-paragraph essay. I wish I still had it. And basically, mind you, I had done him a favor, and I said, because I had said, oh, we're only accepting offers till here. And he said, oh, mine's going to be a few hours late. And I said, that's fine. The seller will wait for your offer. Get your offer in. And then the offer came in like not what we were expecting. And that communicated to the seller that they weren't that interested. And so the seller was very decisive and went with a different offer. And that's the seller's choice, not my choice. And then I got this like 5-paragraph email from him that was like, well, this is how you should have handled it and blah, blah, blah. And basically called me sweetie and nice try, but you can deploy my strategy for the next time. And again, these are all people that were connected personally in my real life. And I just was like, wow, okay. If you'll recall, I hold the listing. I extended the response time for your client. Your client put in a mediocre offer, and my client decided to do something else. It actually had very little to do with me. And I did do you the personal favor of waiting for your offer. That one was really hard too. That one kept me up at night, and because it just made me feel dumb. And I have a lot of unsent emails that I wrote back, and I remember being frustrated, and I called my dad. My dad's an attorney, so I can always talk to my dad under attorney-client privileges. And I said to my dad, I remember saying to my dad, I just want to respond. And if I was a guy, I could just tell that guy to like kick rocks. I could just be like, screw you. Don't talk to me like that. Like he would never, I told my dad, I'm like, he never would have sent an email like that to you. He never would have sent an email like that to my brother. Never in a million years would they have gotten that same email. And if they did, my dad or my brother could respond back, or my husband could respond back and just be like, kick rocks, screw you. But if I do that, I'm emotional and I'm volatile and I'm a brat or I'm whatever. I'm unequipped to do the job. And that one was really hard. I remember having some really angry workouts after that one in the gym. And it's all worked out. It's fine. Some other funny things that have happened. I had a client one time go against, I was listing his house and I told him, and he said, well, my neighbor wants to buy it. And I said, that's fine. I said, but the appraisal is going to be a problem. So we should still take it to market. We should still get multiple offers. And then if you still want to sell it to your neighbor, sell it to your neighbor. But then when we go through the appraisal process, we can prove that this is market value because we have multiple offers. They didn't follow my advice, and exactly what I said was going to happen happened. And then we had this appraisal gap, and they had to either lower the price or the buyer had to come in with more funds. You guys know the drill. And wouldn't you know it, my commission came up in conversation of like to help close the gap. And I was a little more seasoned at this point and willing to kind of stand up for myself a little bit more. And I just told him, I said, I'm like, absolutely. So you want me to donate my commission to your appraisal gap after you didn't do what I told you to do? I said, I'm more than willing to donate a portion of my commission to that. I said, just go ahead and put my name on title for your appreciating asset, right? Like people start making like the weirdest asks of you. And I've learned that if it's okay for them to ask me such a weird question, it's okay for me to like have a boundary and respond strongly. That one was funny. I think that one felt like that was an email I did respond to. But yeah, there's been some, and I think too, there's times too that like being in the position I'm in is interesting. When you have so many people paying attention to what you're doing, it's like a blessing. I don't want to say it's a curse, but there is a weight to it as well. There was a time where I was helping at my kids' school in high school, and I was actually teaching a class, and I was explaining to them. I think they were doing a sales pitch of some sort. I can't actually remember what the assignment was. But they had to pitch something and they had to make a video. And I was saying, hey, you need a hook, you need a body, you need a call to action. And I said, and frankly, you live in an environment where people are pitching you all day, every day. And I kind of explained social media. And I said, if you have 100,000 followers and you have a product that's $100 and you convert at 1%, this is the math on social media. And we talked about Mr. Beast. We talked about their skincare routines and how they're being sold things all of the time. And we're going through it. And I remember, I remember one of the boys raised his hand, and these are like my kids' peers, And I remember one of the boys raised his hand, and he was just being a smart aleck. And I knew he was being a smart aleck. But he said to me, he's like, so does that mean you make more money than your husband? And look, it still takes, I was like, excuse me? And I talk about money like I talk about recipes, because I like going into the schools and teaching kids, because there's a girl in there that doesn't know that this is possible for her. And I need her to know that. And I frankly, at some point, I'm going to want to work with some of these kids. They're going to have ideas, and they're going to have skill sets, and they're going to have the things that I need, right? We're going to help each other at some point. I can see that. And so I like being in there, and I love these kids. But I remember all of a sudden being like, oh gosh, this is an interesting question. And this is an interesting environment. And these are my kids' peers. And now they're bringing my husband into it, and they're acting like maybe that is a detriment. And I just smiled and said, yeah, I do. But ultimately what I really wanted to say was, well, statistically, I out-earn every single one of your dads. And I held my tongue. But there's sometimes these moments where it's just kind of a gut check, and you start to ask yourself, is this worth it? Is this where I should be? Is this what I should be doing? At the end of the day, it is what it is, and you have to take the good with the bad, and the good far, far, far outweighs the bad. Okay. What's one piece of advice, the last question, what's one piece of advice you'd give the version of you who is still grinding 24/7 and burning out? And I'm so proud to tell you, I wouldn't tell her anything different. I wouldn't tell her to do it any differently. Number one, I never hustled 24/7. I never did that because I never thought that was worth it. I just built a business that's worked inside my lifestyle. Like, so many people talk about like business, what did they say? Like business life balance. And I like to say like integration. I need them to integrate. Like, business is just part of our lifestyle. My kids understand my business. They understand the numbers on my business. They understand how it works. And that starts to be like when they're in high school, they start to understand like, hey, this is what we're doing and this is how it works, because no one's teaching them that in school. And so my son just graduated high school, and literally he had to do a TED Talk or something in one of his English classes, and he literally came up with a product, and he's like, oh, I think we can actually build this. And he built the website and he did the thing. And at some point I'll probably build it with him. And the only reason he's thinking like that is because I've been transparent inside my business, and they've been there the whole time. And so I guess what I would go back and tell the Amy of 2017 that was crying in her bed, terrified to pursue real estate, is I would tell her it's harder than you think, and it is more amazing than you could possibly imagine. Thanks so much for being here with me today. We'll see you next time on The Amy Gregory Show. Thanks for tuning in to The Amy Gregory Show. If today's episode gave you that I needed this feeling, go ahead and hit subscribe so you never miss a pep talk when you need it most. And hey, if you're ready to scale your business without the burnout, I've got you. Head over to @AmyGregory on Instagram to connect, grab free resources, or join my community of Powerhouse women who are redefining real estate success. Until next time, trust your gut, take up space, and remember, you're just one bold move away from your next breakthrough.